Hey there, Jordan Chariton live. It is Friday, March 25th. The year is 2022. Hope everybody's having an okay day and has decent weekend plans. I just got back from Florida where I was reporting for several days. So we're going to go over some of that reporting. I don't know what the hell is going on here. It seems like I don't know. YouTube seems to have no rhyme or reason because suddenly our videos and our live streams are falling off the cliff again, despite us not doing anything different and us doing on the ground reporting, which typically does well. So please smash the like button, share this live stream. It seems we're being suppressed on YouTube pretty badly based on the viewer count. So if you can share this live stream, if you can post on your own social media, in addition to sharing the link, make sure people know we're live because the numbers don't make sense. We were on the road and getting like 100 live viewers, which also doesn't make sense. Typically when we're on the road, we typically get anywhere between 200 and 300 live viewers, which is still suppressed, but we were getting like 100 this whole trip. And now you see what's going on with this view count. So either people suddenly don't care about working class stories or people suddenly don't want on the ground reporting, or people aren't seeing it. Alisa, $10. Thank you for on the ground reporting. My notification went to my spam. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? Notifications going to spam. What do you know? So hopefully the numbers go up as we go. We were in Florida covering the Don't Say Gay bill, which might seem like a culture war issue, but in my view, it definitely has consequences for everybody. So we'll get into that. We also were covering the skyrocketing affordable housing crisis in Florida. You can't afford rent, housing in Florida, just like many other places in the country. We also were covering issues as far as police brutality, where a 14-year-old black teenager was killed because he was essentially dropped off by police on the side of the busiest highway in America. So we did a lot. We're going to play a montage clip of all of what we did in Florida. You might have not seen a lot of it because I have a feeling YouTube hasn't been showing everything we were doing down there. So hopefully, once you see it, you'll be able to support us because it kind of sucks when you're being suppressed like we are. It doesn't really make sense. Channel almost 127,000 subscribers is live to 55 people. Makes no sense at all and is very frustrating. We're going to have a former Applebees worker on in a few minutes. If you didn't know, Applebees, an executive at Applebees basically wrote an email, very giddy, over the fact that gas prices are up because gas prices being up, he thinks that's going to force workers to come back to the workforce to work longer hours at lower pay. So this was in an email that an Applebee's executive wrote. The company is getting massive backlash now. He was caught, but let's be clear. This is what most fast food restaurant chains, Walmart, Target, Amazon, this is how corporate America thinks. And our government basically gives corporate America carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want and screw workers. So we're going to go over that, and we're going to interview a former Applebee's worker because that worker has plenty to say on what was exposed about Applebee's. Also, we're doing, and I want to wait till we have more viewers, but I'm starting a new series. We're going to call it the Economic Hunger Games, where I'm just going to interview you, the viewer, real working class people, about your struggles, whether it's housing, healthcare, you name it. Because we need to kind of bust open this whole, like, the economy is wonderful. And as Biden said in a tweet, this is a historically strong economic recovery. Yeah, well, if you actually talk to real people, no, it's not a historically strong. Economic recovery. It's an economic recovery for professional class, upper middle class people. And for everyone else, it's basically social Darwinism on steroid. And I interviewed a senior citizen earlier that is literally on the brink of homelessness and, frankly, suicidal. So we're going to air that a little bit later. So a lot to get into. I'm looking forward to it. And again, smash the like button. Somehow we have 60 people watching, which doesn't make any sense. So hopefully we can get this out to more people. I'm going to see if I could get the guest on now. Yeah, we can, because I want to air the montage a little bit later when we have more viewers. Salem, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. How are you, Jordan?
Good. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get to you, I want to read the email that was leaked, and this is from an Applebee's franchise executive. So the Applebee's executive wrote, "Team, everyone has heard that gas prices continue to rise. The advantage this has for us is that it will increase application flow and has the potential to lower our average wage. How you ask? Most of our employee base and potential employee base live paycheck to paycheck. Any increase in gas price cuts into their disposable income. As inflation continues to climb and gas prices continue to go up, that means more hours employees will need to work to maintain their current level of living. We are no longer competing with the government when it comes to hiring. Stimulus money is no more. Supplemental unemployment is no more. This benefits us as prices rise. People who are relying on unemployment money simply will have less money to spend. It will force people back into the workforce. Furthermore, other competitors, especially mom and pop companies or smaller businesses, will have to either raise prices, cut employee hours, or pay employees less hourly to hit their profit margins. Some businesses will not be able to hold on. This is going to drive more potential employees into the hiring pool. We all competed to hire out of the limited applicant pool, and there was a wage war. We also have businesses hiring team members at $18 to $20 an hour. They will no longer be able to afford to do this. Trucking is the backbone of America, and as fuel costs rise, so will the charge for shipping. If those costs cannot be passed on to the customer in terms of menu price, the only area they can cut sizable costs will be in labor. The labor market is about to turn in our favor. What can you do? Besides hiring employees in at a lower wage to decrease our labor when able, make sure you have a pulse on the morale of your employees. Oh my God. Your employees that live check to check are impacted more than people reading this email. Be conscious of that. Many will need to work more hours to get a second job. Do things to make sure you are the employer of choice. Get schedules completed early so they can plan their other jobs around yours. Most importantly, have the culture and environment that will attract people." I don't even know where to start. But let's start with you. You worked at Applebee's a couple years ago. You faced discrimination there. Tell people real quickly who don't know your story, what happened at Applebee's.
Sure. So at one point, I was training to become a manager. I was a manager in training. And my partner also, worked at Applebee's. He was a server. And in short, he had a table that was difficult, that ended up resulting to using homophobic slurs against him, verbally abusing him, threatening physical harm against him. And when that was reported to management, they wanted to appeal to the customer, give the customer a different server, and did not want to protect their worker at all. And, when we complained about this to them, they were like, this is part of the job. This is something you have to deal with. When my partner reported this to HR, in my next management meeting, they presented veiled threats, basically stating that they had HR in their pocket and that HR worked for them, not for us. So, long story short, they tried to force him to transfer. And then if he didn't, they threatened to demote me if he didn't transfer because he was causing problems for them, according to them. And, that led to both of us resigning.
Right. And it's not like, other than the discrimination and the anti-LGBTQ stuff, things were rainbows and sunshines there anyway. You weren't making bank or anything. And this was, I believe, early on. Was it before the pandemic? So like they were already paying crap wages.
Absolutely, yeah. Servers and bartenders, they were making like roughly $3 an hour.
Jesus.
Yeah, and I started working there in about 2014 or so. Worked there for 2 years and some change. But yeah, I do. It's funny because Scott Fisher, who does communications for Applebee's, kind of tried to rebuttal this narrative of them saying the quiet part out loud. And he essentially argues that, this does not reflect Applebee's as a whole. This doesn't reflect our culture, but it perfectly resembles their culture. And, in some instances, Applebee's is not, so different from many of the other corporations who exploit workers and basically do anything they have to maximize profits. But what's interesting about Applebee's is that they have a very pro-corporate, anti-worker culture going on. And, I've worked at restaurants since I was like 15. I'm 31 now. But some of the practices, the anti-worker practices that, they've been a part of have been, were new even for me. When I was training to become a manager, they actually, there was one meeting where they were teaching us how to get rid of workers that we didn't like, how to set up workers, how to, basically get folks in trouble that were not falling in line enough or that were causing conflict or making them look bad. So they would basically tell us like, hey, like, you have to set people up. And then they started talking about workers that they wanted to set up and how they would get rid of them. And that ranged from all different sorts of methods. One of their favorite methods was having a posted schedule, a work schedule for everyone. And then they would change the schedule in the middle of the week. They would get rid of the old schedule and they wouldn't notify any of the workers of the changes. And then they would try to get them in trouble by saying, oh, well, this is a no call, no show to the shift for shifts that people were not originally scheduled for. And so they would do these things and basically gaslight workers into thinking that they were making mistakes so that they could get rid of them, or so that they could have an excuse to write them up so that they could use that as leverage later to coerce them into doing things that they wanted them to do. Like working shifts that they couldn't typically work that are outside of their availability. They would put them in positions of, okay, well, you either come in, for this shift or you don't have a job. So the way that they treat workers is exceptionally bad. It's something that is straight up taught. It is something that is taught to managers in training. They teach you all these little maneuvers. They tell you to be friendly to corporate, and that corporate and HR was there to back us up as managers and to protect the company, not the workers. So right. This is, the bigotry is just, the icing on the cake. They're very exploitative, very abusive towards workers, and they were the entire time I was there.
The line that, there was a lot of things in this email that stood out, but the fact that he writes, most of our employee base and potential employee base live paycheck to paycheck. Any increase in gas price cuts into their disposable income. You don't get less human and more numbers on these people are more numbers on our balance sheet than that. Just basically saying like with, deadpan. Yeah. Our workers are paycheck to paycheck. And, this is one Applebee's franchise executive, but obviously this is a culture. The stuff that, he also pointed out, essentially like try to screw them in an organized way, like make sure they get their schedules early, make sure they know something about culture. Like, does he not understand that when you're basically intentionally paying people crap wages, the culture is bad, regardless if you schedule them early for them to work their 2 other jobs?
Yeah, it's wild, and they think like that about everything. Like everything they do is about maximizing profit and pushing workers down. Actually, during the hiring process, which I started becoming a part of as a manager in training, they actually mentioned at one point that I should try to target people who were either completely unemployed or lived in low income areas, etc. Uh, Basically because they would need to work, and essentially they would put up with more abuse in the workplace. So this is something that's like, it's not an isolated, one person from Applebees, said one thing that made him look bad, and it's an isolated incident. It's like, no, like this is the system that's been created for the purpose of maximizing profit above all else, even if that means stepping on employees, even if it means stepping on minorities. And, they teach people to abuse their power any way that fits them. And it's crazy because the restaurant industry as a whole is already, notoriously abusive. And these corporations already have our government catering to them at every step. And they're not even required to pay tipped workers a minimum wage. And, they don't, by the way. There's supposed to be laws where tipped employees who don't make enough tips to equal out to minimum wage are paid the difference by the employer. They don't do that. They go into the system, they change tips that you've reported so they don't have to pay you anything. And it's just so deeply embedded into the workplace, and it's incredible to actually see them pretty much say the quiet part out loud, and now try to walk it back. It's amazing.
Jesus. And can you kind of talk about, Applebee's is one of many, but this is our economic system where we're being told build back better. We're being told, oh, the economy's coming back. Biden tweeted out a couple days ago, we have a historic recovery. Well, most of the jobs that have come back since the pandemic are in the hospitality industry. No disrespect, but that's what these jobs are. Applebee's, hotels, bars. I mean, that's a huge chunk of the jobs that came back. So it's like this mirage of a strong economy when really we have an economic Hunger Games. I keep saying that, but that's what this email shows. And it's like the quiet part out loud. He obviously didn't think it was going to be leaked, but I'm sure these same discussions are going on off email at fast food, Amazon, Target. And there was a time long ago where we had a president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who didn't allow this. Not that he was perfect, but corporations had some regulations and rules. Can you kind of talk about, the cognitive dissonance of a strong economy when this is what's really going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's interesting to me, especially about capitalists in the United States, is that they're largely not even very good at being capitalists. Like basic economics. If you want people to consume your services, your goods, whatever, as a company, specifically as a corporation, you can't pay all these workers wages where they can't even afford to live, and then wonder why people aren't consuming your products. And it's amazing to me as someone who's also, worked trying to consult small businesses, that these people are basically belligerent. They don't want to listen to anybody else. And, if you go all the way at the top of these corporations, why should they do anything that's going to work, long term? Why should they do any of that if Congress is going to just turn around and bail them out? Right? So there's no incentive for them to actually pay workers fairly, to treat workers fairly. It's not profitable for them. And like you said, we now have less regulations than ever on corporations. We have, and they have such a strangle on workers, and we have a real lack of worker rights. And, historically, we've seen that these corporations have no problem taking advantage of that. They have no problem, like Walmart having so many employees that are literally relying on government, benefits like welfare, because of the choices that Walmart makes. Despite bringing in, billions of dollars, they feel no need. There's no urgency. They see no reason to do any better by their employees. And that's, at this point, it is a fully systemic thing that is going to have to be addressed on the federal level, or it's not going to be addressed.
And lastly, you were running for Congress. You, I believe, today announced you'd be withdrawing your run. Can you kind of talk about, it ain't easy running as a working class person within the Democratic Party? I know a lot of people are like, to hell with it, I'm not voting for anyone that's a Democrat. Can you kind of talk about your experience? Because obviously some of what we're talking about inspired you to run.
Mm-hmm.
What were the difficulties you were facing that caused you to get out of the race?
So
and you were running in the Philadelphia area.
Right. I was running in Philly's 2nd district, which is pretty much like North and Northeast Philly, which is the poorest district in the state with an average income of less than $25,000 a year. And it was interesting because our team was pretty much made up of working class people that were working other jobs, to pay bills, make ends meet, and whatnot. So this was something that we all kind of, put in time to run this campaign. And to be clear, when we started, we really had no idea what we were doing. We didn't have like serious connections, to, politicians or the party or anything else. So it was interesting because we, didn't have high fundraising. We didn't have resources. There were actually Democratic Party leaders that blocked us out of resources that they give to other Democratic candidates. They used the local media to perpetuate lies about us. And it was just crazy because it was like they were intentionally trying to throw up barriers at every turn for us. And I'm actually really proud of the work that we did, because for a bunch of folks that don't have a ton of experience in politics and electoralism and how all this stuff works, we were actually able to overcome every single barrier, up until the end. Specifically, what happened at the end that was kind of, the straw that broke it for us was the fact that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court suddenly they shortened our window to collect signatures to get on the ballot. We had to collect 1,000 to get onto the ballot. And after they cut that short, we ended up falling short about 103 valid signatures. And, we did everything from knocking doors in the rain and the snow, writing emails, phone banking, the whole 9 yards. But, at the end of the day, we just didn't have the same capacity and resources. All of our folks were, working other jobs, upkeeping households, families, the whole 9 yards. So I'm proud that we came close, but it was very interesting to see up close how many Democratic Party officials will target you, will use dark money, will use the press they have in the pocket. Like, they will use every resource to come after you. And what hope that actually gives me is the fact that, if a bunch of us working class people in, Kensington, Philadelphia can manage to run a campaign that actually makes us the target of dark money groups and Democratic Party leaders who are working to stop us, and we have a fraction of the resources, like, to me, that's a good sign, because it didn't take all the resources they have, to combat them, to make us a target.
Right. And lastly, what would be your message if you got in the room with that Applebee's exec, Giddy, about screwing workers? What would be your message? Because obviously the media, the national media, is not going to cover this or care that much.
It would be that, first of all, like, if you look at research, workers who are treated better perform better. That's better for the business. Workers who are happy with where they work do a better job. People are more productive. It's just proven at this point that treating workers well, taking care of workers is effective, not just, for the well-being of workers and, for the sake of being ethical, but if they actually understood business, they would understand that their business would better thrive if they treated their workers right. But they're short-sighted. So my message would be to stop being short-sighted. It's not about how much profit you can bring in at the end of any given night. It's not about, just stepping on everybody you can, mistreating everybody you can to make as much money as you can. It is literally economically more feasible for business if they do treat workers right. And it just shows to me that Applebee's does not know how to run a business.
Or care about human beings, but not just
the more
Applebee's.
Important part.
Right. We do live in the United Corporations of America. So this is just one of many. Thank you, Salem. I really appreciate it. Let's stay in touch.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. So that was Salem Snow, ran for Congress, but, had to drop out because of a lot of the obstacles that candidates face. By the way, it's not just candidates running in the Democratic Party facing those challenges. There's Green Party candidates that face the same type of issues, independents, this and that. So don't think it's just like a thing like running in the Democratic Party. If you are anti-establishment, if you're working class, you are going to have a tough time running for election. They're going to try to screw you on signatures, ballot access, you name it. Not to depress you, but I want to turn to another story. We're going to start doing more. Not that we haven't been covering the working class, but we're going to start doing more interviews where we talk directly to you, the viewer. I put out a bit of a casting call, I guess you could say. I'm looking for people that are struggling right now. I'm looking for people that are being screwed. Their rents are skyrocketing, healthcare costs, you name it. I want to start interviewing viewers and real people more. So a couple people reached out to me. I hope more people are going to reach out as we start airing these interviews. I wish YouTube wasn't throttling the hell out of our channel so more people could see this. If you haven't yet, smash the like button, thumbs up button right under the live stream. Please, if you can, support us with a super chat. We also are trying to drive up our membership. A little bit later, we'll play some of the reporting I just did in Florida. I'm not going to lie to you. The trip, it was important to cover, but I don't think a lot of people saw the streams. I don't think a lot of people saw it because we were being suppressed very hard, even getting like 100 live viewers for each live stream, even though typically when we're on the ground reporting, we get a lot more than that. So, we lost money on this trip. So I'm hoping for those that have the ability can sign up today as a member for $5 to $10 a month. That's statuscoup.com/join, statuscoup.com/join. We need to grow. We need to grow or we can't fund the on-the-ground reporting. It's as simple as that. So let me air an interview I did earlier today with a very nice woman, a senior citizen, and she is literally facing homelessness because her apartment has literally gone up $800. The rent has gone up $800 and she is on the brink of homelessness. That's what's going on in this great historic economic recovery. And I've already had people reaching out to me after I posted about this earlier. So if you have stories, if you are being screwed, if you are facing eviction, homelessness, you have a particular story about economic suffering, email us, info@statuscoup.com, info@statuscoup.com. On Twitter, my DMs are open too. So you could DM me or email us at info@statuscoup.com. We're going to try and just start interviewing real people. If I could, every day. So let's turn to this interview with this wonderful woman who, not going to lie to you, it gets emotional at some points. Here we go. Jordan, I am delighted to be joined by Susan Winstead, and I had put out a call based on some reporting I'm doing on the ground. I put out a call for actual living, breathing, working people for interviews because we're getting a lot of the same narrative that we get from the media, that the economy is back, that the economy is strong. I'll read President Biden here put out a tweet. He said this morning, we learned that new unemployment claims are now at a level not seen since 1969. America's historic economic recovery is strong. Our Americans are getting back to work, he says. Well, I go around the country and I don't know who the economy is strong for, but for actual working people, they are being strong armed, I would say. So you reached out to me and have quite a story yourself. Tell people where you're from, how long have you lived there, and what is it you're dealing with right now? Because you are, if something doesn't change, facing potential homelessness.
I am homeless after April. I've already received my notice because the housing market has gone up about 40%. And the rental market is practically non-existent unless you can pay over $2,000 a month.
Right.
So as far as the job situation goes, that's rather hilarious too. What I see is there are jobs down at the very bottom level where, once again, this is North Carolina. Guess what our minimum wage is? $7.99.
Oh boy.
But other than that, for professionals, there are just very few jobs, unless, like, this is Chapel Hill. And oh, I'm sorry, I should have introduced that. I'm not in Chapel Hill, but I'm right outside. Unless you are a young professional where the job market is pretty good.
Right. And what was your, because you've lived in a place for a couple of years, what did the rent used to be, and what has the landlord jacked it up to?
Well, I lived here 10 years and I did have a really good rate because, I just circumstances, but it wasn't that great. It was $1,200 a month. Now, almost anything that you see is 1,000 plus.
You said 2,000 plus?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen 22s now for like 2-bedroom apartments.
Mm-hmm. And could you talk about what is generally the cause of the increase? Are they gentrifying the neighborhood? Are Wall Street types coming in and buying up properties? Or what are they saying is the justification for raising rates? You're talking by $800, $900.
Well, it's really the crazy housing market because so much of it got bought up already. You are familiar with the big concerns that came in and, bought up a lot of land and a lot of housing. Now it turns out anything that's sold generally has competing bids because everybody's in the market now bidding it up because they all assume that once they come in and make a few changes, it'll be $1 million.
Right.
That's a pretty hard housing market to get a decent apartment or a house done.
And for you personally, it's been a struggle because, you are you're older, you have Social Security, but Social Security is not going to cover a $800 rent increase. And you also, unfortunately, have lost several family members recently. So you don't exactly have anywhere to go.
I don't really have much of a support system anymore. The worst thing that you can think about it is that there are jobs, but when people who are older go after them, they're very, very nice to you all the way through when it goes to HR, and then all of a sudden you don't hear anything again. And there's a tremendous amount of discrimination against the elderly. And trust me, you can be the elderly if you're 40 or 50. So if you're really elderly, you're kind of dead in the market, even though you might have a great resume. I worked in aerospace engineering for over 20 years, and I had my own company for another 20. And, it was pretty good there in spurts, but essentially everything is kind of gone away now. So this great economy that we're hearing about all the time, I think has got to be really designated to nodes of the economy, the young, the extremely well qualified with recent degrees, and people who are connected. There are a lot of jobs. You mentioned Wall Street, right? But if you take a look at almost anybody there, you'll find out they all have connections.
Right. And also, I mean, you've been working most of your life. So that expect somebody like 65 years and up to now come back for, 8, 9, 10-hour day. That's a lot to ask.
Well, it's kind of odd because I have been working all my life, but it's just kind of, as they say, decreased over time to a stop. And it's very, very difficult to get jobs now, but it looks like the market is not going to stop. It's going to continue at more and more, high cost. And what do people do who can't get a good job? You can't do it on Social Security.
And, as much as you're willing to talk about, I hate to get personal, but for you, I mean, you've had a really tough last year or two. Can you kind of talk about the losses you've suffered and why, that has now made losing your home even more challenging?
Well, I lost my daughter last year, and then my mother passed away in September. My father has been dead for some time. And I have a brother who came down with cancer last year and a sister who came down with cancer. So essentially, there's no family there anymore.
And so sorry about your daughter and all these other losses. And obviously, we were talking off camera, potentially people you could stay with, they have their own issues and their own family members they're taking care of. So obviously, you don't want to be an imposition to them.
Well, you really can't be, because if you were up against the Medicare, and I shouldn't even say Medicare, but the hospital system today, you've got your hands full. It's hard for you to take on somebody else's problems. Right.
Absolutely. And can you kind of talk about North Carolina Republican legislature, Democratic governor? I don't think the Republicans are doing much because they're taking money from these real estate developers, but the Democrats are also taking money from these real estate developers. What are the politicians doing about this? Because whether it's for older people or younger people, I mean, who the hell can just like out of their pillow could find another $500 to $1,000 a month?
Exactly. And the thing is that my rent increase went up, believe it or not, $700 to $800 a month. That's amazing to me.
What are the politicians doing, if anything?
Well, that's the interesting thing. We have a Republican General Assembly that came in stealthily with gerrymandered districts. You probably read all about it. We lost all of our really good Democrats. And now we just pretty much have Republicans all over, although we did elect a Democratic governor that tries to keep it in somehow, under a roar. Roy Cooper, he's been great.
So is the Democratic governor proposing anything to keep? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, he's been trying to keep the cuts that the Republicans have been doing to all the programs under control.
Mm-hmm. And what about in terms of housing? Is he pushing for any type of rent control, any type of rental relief?
This is North Carolina. We have nothing. We don't have any programs that you would think would benefit the actually medium income to poor. But what's really funny about it, hilarious, is they're getting ready to do another tax cut for the wealthy. Just thought I'd put that in.
Of course. And what does it say to you? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, they say it's going to stimulate the economy.
Yeah, they've been saying that for 40 years.
Crazy.
What does it say to you that you have President Biden, the Democrats, kind of pushing this, that the economy is coming back, that he said this is, historic economic recovery, citing low unemployment. But when you look, whether it's North Carolina, LA, Washington, D.C., New York City, Chicago, Miami, Tampa, Orlando, I mean, people literally, the only thing historic is the skyrocketing rent. I mean, you're talking 40, 50, in some cases 60%. So what does it say to you when you are, I mean, I know you've been packing and things like that. You don't even know where you're going to go. What does it say to you that the Democratic Party and the media are pushing that the economy is great, everything's dandy?
Well, I hate to say it, North Carolina did not go for Joe Biden for a reason. They didn't like the chat. And for people like me, I'm a very left-wing Democrat. I don't like it either. It sounds crazy to me, like you're not thinking clearly about who your voters are and what they are thinking from what you're saying.
Right. And kind of they're just taking surface level numbers like the unemployment number or the stock market, but they don't seem to realize that that doesn't matter if you are an older person on a fixed income or middle-aged, younger people living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, you can't. Most Americans can't afford a $400 emergency. We're talking about rent going up $800 to $1,000
a month. A month, not a year.
And
yeah, it's crazy.
And you know, maybe you don't have the answers, but what are you going to do? I mean, you're an older woman. You have till when? The end of April to leave your place?
Yeah, I'm considering suicide, but don't tell anyone because then 1 million people will be calling me.
Well, this is going out. This interview is going out. So. Well, please don't do that. If you know, there's people that can help you.
No, they can't help because they can't find me a house here.
No, but you know, in all
I'm laughing, but it's black laughter, right? I mean, you realize there's really nothing that people in my situation can do.
Right.
You can't remake the housing market.
And are you, you know, in all seriousness, have you gotten to that dark place where you've had to consider potentially suicide because of this?
Only every day. And then I try to jolly myself out of it. After all, I have till the end of April.
Right. And, you know, let me ask you, because people say, well, why don't you just move somewhere cheaper? Well, you've been looking. Are there opportunities for cheaper?
Every place I look, the housing market has done exactly the same thing. I've looked in small towns in South Carolina. I've looked in Virginia, in Maryland, where I used to live. It's exactly the same situation, but nobody's talking about it yet. I mean, you do see a few articles. I mean, you can see a housing craziness article maybe once every couple of weeks, but it's everywhere right now. People should be reporting on this. And Jordan, you're wonderful. You're just wonderful to do this. People need to know.
And I usually don't, you know, I usually wouldn't ask a fine woman like you how old you are, but I think it's important in this story. If you don't mind, how old are you? I'm
not going to tell.
Okay. But
I'm terrified. If I tell, someone will come and beat me up and take anything I have because, you know, I'm not able to defend myself.
Well, safe to say you're a senior citizen. And the reason I bring this up is
it's true.
We're supposed to live, you know, American dream. You work hard, you could have a retirement, you know, you could spend time with your grandkids, you know, have a little dignity. Well, we're really living in an economic Hunger Games because
we really are. It's a huge economic decline that nobody is seriously reporting on yet. And by the way, I have an MBA in case anybody wants to hire me. I'd love to come over and do your taxes or your economic stuff or whatever. But the main thing is that nobody's really reporting on this. And it's been happening. The decline has been happening for, years.
Why do you think that is? I mean, the media nationally and locally, most journalists are doing fairly well themselves. And most of these local and national media outlets are owned by corporations. So what's the role of the media here?
Well, the point is that most of the people in the media are so overpaid, they don't really see it. It's like passing by a bad wreck story. They don't want to really look too closely, but it's definitely a wreck And if you were truthful, it's a wreck every other half mile.
Before we wrap, tell people, because I'm sure there's a lot of people watching that might be in a similar situation or afraid they're going to be in this situation. What is the main thing you want people to know, since you're saying this isn't being talked about enough?
Well, something has to happen. We have to start reporting on what our actual conditions are for all the people, not just the people who've been skating through on easy money. Let's face it, that's one of the reasons why the stock market is roaring like it is. It's not that the products and whatever out there, but there's an awful lot of easy money coming to people who already have money, not like people like me.
Right.
And that's where they put it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Listen, I'm not in your situation, but I have had depression, and I honestly recently have been suffering with depression. In my life, I have had periods where I felt suicidal. It's tough because it feels like it's never going to get better, but I really hope.
Well, Jordan, you should call me. I'll make you feel better about your situation.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't want you to do anything. If that happens, you have my number. You call me, and we can't lose good people like you. And also, when we post this video, if you want to give contact information or anything like that, so people could reach out to you if they'd like to help, we'll try to help with that too. Thank you, Susan. I really appreciate it, telling your story, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. And you're doing a smashing job.
Thank you. Historic economic recovery. Historic economic recovery. That's what we're told. United Corporations of America. That's what's really going on here. And, to the naysayers, they'll say, well, Jordan, yeah, it's easy to find people that are struggling, but you're making it seem like that's the norm. Yeah, it is the norm. If you actually go out in this country and you talk to people, and you talk to a lot of people, most people are struggling. Most people are having to basically ration certain things, choose between food, medicine, this and that. You got your upper middle class and professional class type people that are living okay. That is not the majority. That is the minority. And it's depressing to cover these things, and it's never going to go viral. But that's why I do this. That's why we created Status Coup, to show this and to get people like Susan's story out there. It's really fucking infuriating that, we got 126,000 subscribers, and look at what is going on here with the views. We're being suppressed. We were just suppressed on the road. More people should be seeing stories like that, because I got news for you. If more people saw Susan's story, if more people saw this kind of content, you better damn well believe there would be more outrage. You better believe more people would be waking up. You better believe Status Coup would be growing a lot quicker too. So we're going to keep doing these kind of stories. I'm putting it out there right now. Colin, if you have the thumbnail, we could put up there. I'm putting it out there right now. We are going to do an economic Hunger Games series where we are literally going to be interviewing people like Susan, not just people facing homelessness, but all sorts of economic struggle, all sorts of injustice. We are going to be spotlighting this. So I'm putting out a call to you, the viewers. If you got a story, it doesn't need to be exactly like that. Reach out, because I am going to be interviewing viewers going forward. You could email us at info@statuscoup.com, info@statuscoup.com. I'm on Twitter. My DMs are open too, so you could DM me on Twitter, direct message. The info email is probably the best. I'll try to get back to you, as soon as I can. But Susan reached out to me the other day, interviewed her today. So we're going to do something radical, and that's just not radical. We're going to do something, and that's called directly telling the stories of our viewers, because we need to pop this bubble as much as we can of the historic, strong, recovering economy. Yeah. For who? For who? You got a senior citizen, been working all her life, just lost her daughter, her mother, lost her daughter. and she's facing homelessness in a month because somehow it's normal that rent could go up $800 in this country. It's absolutely outrageous. She's suicidal. I mean, I didn't even put that in the headline because I didn't want to exploit it, but you have a senior citizen who is suicidal and on the brink of homelessness in America. And we want to talk about other countries. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And basically, like she said, you either have Republicans at the state level who are trying to cut things and Democrats who are basically taking money from these very corporations that are screwing people like Susan. So you got two parties. One's a little better on the woke stuff. One's a little better on social issues. Economically, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's disgusting. So I want to get into some of our reporting that we just did. You might have not seen our reporting because we were being suppressed while on the road, but we were in Florida and we were covering a mix of things the last few days. We were covering this Don't Say Gay bill. You might say, Jordan, that's a culture war. I don't care. Trust me, you should care. And hopefully some of these you should care. We also covered the absolutely just skyrocketing housing and rent crisis in Florida, which is one of the worst states in the country for exploding rent. Wall Street coming in and buying up homes and rental properties and then either demolishing them, rebuilding and jacking up rates, or renting, buying up homes and then renting instead of selling. So we did a lot of interviews. We'll probably play this again next week when we hopefully have more viewers. But here's a bit of a montage of our reporting. I'm asking you, if you're not a Status Coup member yet, please sign up to help us keep the lights on. This reporting is expensive. This trip between me and Colin in Florida probably cost us about $2,000 for just 4 days. So please, if you can, support us. StatusCoup.com/join. Sign up for $5 to $10 a month. We only got 3 signups while we were there, which is not good. Not going to lie. So we need to get more people to sign up to help us fund this reporting, the on-the-ground reporting, and interviewing people like Susan and, paying Colin and other freelancers. Let's show you some of our reporting from this most recent trip. Address this bill because, you hear from supporters of it, just basically the talking point. Well, what's wrong with not teaching sexual ideology or identity in such younger grades? But to me, because I read the bill, it seems to be quite more than that.
Yes, we call it the Don't Say Gay bill because it prohibits classroom instruction or inclusion of LGBTQ people, particularly sexual orientation or gender identity. So they're really singling us out, our community out, and they have said that really in so much of the rhetoric and their defense of the Don't Say Gay bill.
Florida already has really strict and conservative guidelines on sex ed to begin with. Sex ed is even mandated in Florida schools. And if you do teach it, it has to be abstinence emphasized. It has to be posted on your school district's website, and parents can opt out. And so it's very, very conservative already, and there is no conversation of sexual activity happening in K-3. And when we brought up an amendment, when a Republican filed an amendment to change the language of sexual orientation and gender identity to sexual activity, it was denied. And the Republican sponsor said that would gut the purpose of the bill, because the purpose of the bill is to target and attack and harass and belittle and erase LGBT plus identity. It's not about sexual activity.
I have read the bill because that's what all the critics say when you push back. Oh, you haven't read the bill. You don't know what it's about. And I'm like, I read everything. I'm a lawyer. I read everything. So basically, the bill says that from K through 3 or age appropriate, you cannot have discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity. So the conversation then becomes, well, we don't want, the conversation with the Republicans is we don't want to talk about sexual things. Okay, I can understand that. That's fine. So when we have offered amendments to say, listen, like, you don't want to talk about sexual things, then let's just say human sexuality, period. So that covers everything. That covers heterosexual relationships and sex. That covers same-sex relationships and sex. Well, I think that takes away from the intent of the bill. So then that brings me back to the question, what is the intent of the bill? If the intent is really not to talk about sexual things, our amendments would have been accepted.
It's like you have this friend that's sitting at the table with you, and they're like, I don't like your sandwich. It's my sandwich. You're not gonna eat my sandwich, are you? You have your own sandwich. Just eat your own sandwich. Don't care about my sandwich. Like, that's my sandwich. I'm gonna eat it. I'm not putting it in your mouth. I'm not forcing you to eat my sandwich. You can go sit at another table and eat your sandwich with your other rude sandwich-hating friends, okay? Well, I sit at my table with my sandwich-loving friends that will eat the same sandwich as me, okay? Don't judge my sandwich.
And you can sit at the same table
You can.
and not care about what somebody else's sandwich is.
Yep.
And still be friends and still be respectful. And even if you don't like it, respect.
You have all these corporations that put the LGBTQ flag in their windows.
Oh.
Disney, Comcast, AT&T,
And
but they give a ton of money to the sponsors of this bill, and Disney, they basically were forced to react to this.
Disney is a particularly upsetting one, but Pride capitalism as a whole is so disturbing. Pride was a protest. It was a beg for liberation. And these companies will show up at Pride events with their little booths and little like Pride merchandise with their logo on it, and like Disney will make however much money selling LGBTQ merchandise products, you know, and then donate to these anti-LGBTQ politicians and not pull their weight and make a difference when they need to, and will take out the only like same-sex kiss in countries where it's not accepted. They don't care about us. They use us as a way to make money. We're just another avenue of profit for them. Disney didn't say anything until it started looking bad for them. But they could have gotten this bill had they said something weeks ago. This wouldn't have passed. The amount of money they give, it would not have passed. But they didn't do it because at the time it didn't seem beneficial to them, and it is awful. But it just shows like a larger issue, you know, of corporations doing whatever they want to make money and not really holding any values.
If you don't think like him, if you don't look like him, if you don't act like him, or even have the financial security. I mean, and I think that what kills me is when, especially, you know, here in Florida, especially in rural areas, when like, you know, people who are economically challenged vote against their interests. I'm like, this man doesn't care. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. Like he cares about your vote to get him to where he needs to be. But he doesn't, because if he cared, he would make it easier for you.
But isn't that on the Democrats?
I mean,
Isn't it on the Democrats if you're not giving them enough on the bread and table? Well, I think you nailed it, because if you have a Republican Party that's viewed as fighting and exciting their base, even though they're fighting for terrible things, and you have a Democratic Party where there's only a couple progressives within that party fighting for affordable housing, while the rest of the party is taking money from Disney and real estate developers and basically corrupt. People are just going to vote for the Republicans, and there's a lot of people that will just sit it out because they're like, I know the Republicans are bad, but what are the Democrats doing to help my life?
The Democrats and the Republicans aren't even that different when it comes to like the political spectrum, like as a whole. And Republicans are going farther and farther right, and Democrats are saying, oh, well, we should become more center to appeal to them. No, you should go farther left, and we need to mobilize, and we need to, exactly. We need to get people energized. We need to get people involved. They have created such an intense, frightening base of people, and we need to be able to counter that with the same energy,
Maybe
except
not frightening, but
not frightening and not
more
dangerous, and not cult-like.
Independent though, no.
But more action-based instead of old and useless.
Basically, Disney in many ways has bought Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the type of politicians that we have in power, right? From the local level, the state level, even to the national level. And what we see is corporations like Disney, and Disney's one of the biggest ones, but definitely not the only one, especially here in Central Florida, that takes advantage of these politicians, owns a lot of them, and pushes them to a place where they're getting these $2 billion tax cuts, where they're getting a lot of these big tax incentives to do what they have already been doing, right? A lot of times it's not like they are getting these tax incentives and hiring a bunch of people full-time, good dignified wages, good benefits and everything like that. Our unions have to fight for that after the fact a lot of the times. And so that's pretty much what we see here. And it's not just Disney. We can take a step back and look at it from a bird's eye view, and we see it happening with Big Sugar here in Florida, with the sugar industry that's completely unchecked, and fossil fuel industry here in Florida. And it's creating a situation where essentially these companies are being rewarded for polluting our environment.
It's an emergency. The rent and housing prices are out of control. They've gone up 30 to 50%, and wages have not gone up nearly enough. In addition to dealing with all the other inflation, gas prices are skyrocketing, the price of food, and the working class that are the backbone of the Orlando economy cannot afford to live here. And instead of spending money on affordable housing and transit and the stuff our working class need, we're providing corporate subsidies to places like Disney, Universal, and the developers, like you mentioned. They're buying out the city council, they're buying the commissioners and getting whatever they want. And we, the people, are suffering.
I don't know what their measurement is that the economy is going up.
It's rich people. They say the economy, that's a euphemism for the rich, It's like working people aren't doing well here. And like Jack was saying, they said they have to renovate because our apartments become a slum pretty much. They haven't been taking care of it. That's a big problem that we're seeing here too, is like all these slumlords, and the city's not doing anything about it. But meanwhile, the city codes department will go after, homeowners in the black neighborhoods and, give them fines because their grass is too long or whatever the case may be. But then, our landlord's able to get away with, mold everywhere.
The story is so genuine and it's so heart-touching because it's a whole lot bigger than black and white. This is a 14-year-old child. That could have been anybody's child. That was put in a police car and kidnapped and abandoned on the side of the road. Like some old roadkill. And when I signed for my child was dead. Alright? The last time he was alive, he was in the sheriff's custody. The sheriff released him to nobody. Not his mama, not his daddy, not a coach, not a reverend, nobody. He's dead. And the last place we seen him was in your custody.
So that was some of our reporting. Do me a favor this weekend, go click on those videos, go click on those live streams, even if you can't watch all of them. While we were out there, we seemed to be being more suppressed than we normally are. We were going live to about 100 people, which is problematic, obviously. We lost quite a bit of money on this trip because nobody saw our reporting. So please go back and watch those live streams, click on them. If you can, I know we have a smaller viewership today. Please sign up as a Status Coup member. There's a lot of places asking you for funding, but mostly they're sitting in a studio doing hot takes. We're trying to do actual on-the-ground reporting. Not everything we cover is, hot protests. A lot of it's, stuff like this, substantive. We wanted to diversify and cover, the LGBTQ community, because this is an attack on LGBTQ people. And even if that doesn't affect you directly, as progressives, we should care about everybody, whether it's about people getting screwed economically or people getting screwed because of who they are. So these stories are not sexy. They're never going to go the most viral. YouTube's algorithm actually buries them. So it is not advantageous for us to do them, but the only way we can do them is if we have you guys helping us fund it. So if you're already a member, you could donate to the trip to help us offset the costs. That's statuscoup.com/Florida trip. Statuscoup.com/Florida trip. That has all the different ways you could donate. Any amount makes a huge difference to help us offset. Rent a car was expensive. The gas was expensive. We went between Orlando, St. Pete, and Tampa. Flights, hotel, all of that. Statuscoup.com/Florida trip right there. And more importantly, become a member. If you're not a member yet, please sign up as a Status Coup member at statuscoup.com/join. I don't really know what's going on. It seems like every now and then YouTube squeezes us more. The viewership has been down the last week or two after it was up considerably. Could be topic oriented, but I happen to think it has more to do with people we're being suppressed more. Because usually our on the ground reporting, we generally get, anywhere between 200 and 300 live viewers, which is we should still be getting more than that. But we were getting like 100 live viewers, which makes no sense. And we've never had it that bad. So please consider signing up, statuscoup.com/join. Spread the word. Share these interviews. We're going to cut up that interview we did with Susan. By the way, her email and Twitter is in the description under this live stream. So if you want to reach out to Susan, she gave me permission. If you can help her in some way, or if you live in North Carolina or have suggestions for her, her email and her Twitter is in the description. We are going to be doing more interviews with you, the viewers. So please, if you have a story, email us at info@statuscoup.com. Economically hurting, your rent is skyrocketing, facing eviction, healthcare costs, local corruption, you name it. We want to keep interviewing people, working people. And just keep on exposing these stories, even if we can't get on the ground to cover all of them, at least having them on the live stream through, interviewing people remotely. Thank you. Let me read some super chats. And, I haven't gotten any members sign up, so I'm a little disappointed. I hope we could get some folks signing up as a member before I go. Thank you. $2 tip from Roger Meadows. Time for right of first refusal laws mandating once corporations grow beyond a certain threshold, before they outsource out of state, automate, sell, or merge with another company, file for bankruptcy, go public, or even after they have gone public, purchase the company and restructure it into a worker co-op. Help with co-ops grow and start government agencies that do for co-ops what Fed Small Business Agency does for small biz. It's a good idea. Elisa, $10. Thank you for your on-the-ground reporting. My notification went to my spam. Yeah, I have a feeling that's been happening a lot, unfortunately. Ugly Nacho, $9.99. Appreciate it, Ugly Nacho. Das Bosch Fleiss, €9.99. All these examples of corruption and bad politics highlight the importance of a healthy media environment and good journalism. Yes, and we don't have a lot of good journalism. We don't have a lot of outlets doing this kind of journalism. So I appreciate your super chats. Most importantly, sign up as a member if you're not. Chris Garrett, $5 for the great on-the-ground reporting. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your support always across the board. And again, I'll pitch it one more time. Like, we cannot fund the on-the-ground reporting if we don't grow our membership. It's as simple as that. So consider signing up. Membership also helps us. The higher our membership goes, we're less vulnerable to the fluctuations in terms of YouTube suppression because we have enough stable income coming in. So please sign up, statuscoup.com/join, statuscoup.com/join. We'll have more videos over the weekend from our reporting trip in Florida, as well as other stories. And Monday, I'll be going live from Staten Island. Today is the first day of voting for the Amazon union election. It's going to be today through March 30th. So we'll be there on Monday, live, interviewing workers. This is a historic election. Amazon, if the Staten Island workers win the vote, it will be the first unionized Amazon in America. And that would be huge for the labor movement, for working people, period. To get one unionized Amazon, it would have a massive domino effect from there. So please, definitely come back. That's going to be around 12:30 Eastern on Monday. So that's 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. So about lunchtime, we'll be live from Staten Island covering the Amazon union vote. So please, pretty please, sign up, statuscoup.com/join. If you're already a member, please consider supporting the most recent trip we did at statuscoup.com/Florida trip. There you could donate any amount through GoFundMe or PayPal. Makes a big difference. We need to help offset some of the costs we had for that reporting trip. And we're also looking towards other trips that we could take, but we can't keep taking trips if we don't grow our membership. So that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully we get the views back up next week. And I'll see you on Monday around 12:30 Eastern time from Amazon Staten Island. So put it in your calendar. We'll be live around lunchtime on the East Coast, 12:30 on Monday. Take care.